When you received the diagnosis, did you at any point ask yourself, why did this happen?
You ready for this?
I have tears in my eyes.
I want patients to exercise. We know it gets rid of the brain fog, it gets rid of the stress. They have reduced cancer fatigue, and we know it actually enhances treatment outcomes. This is massive. We know it's good for the immune system. I think I am alive today because I exercised during my cancer treatment. When people optimize their fiber consumption, there was a 22% reduced risk of cancer occurring and a 17% reduced risk of dying from cancer.
That did so much for me. Dawn, you have no idea. You were told, just like me, that you couldn't have kids. And you gave birth to a perfectly healthy child.
And this was my message. For anyone on immunotherapy, the best thing you can do, the gift to your body to really accelerate that treatment is...
The room was getting dark and I passed out. That was the most powerful thing I've ever experienced in life, is the experience of your life gone, but then it being given back again. The wait for organ donation is extremely long. And so we wait. He said they found a heart. And on February 5th, 2021, I became a heart transplant recipient. I'm Dawn Mussallem. I'm a 20-year cancer survivor and a heart transplant recipient.
All right, Dawn, first of all, I want to say a big thank you to my dear friend Simon, who introduced me to you, and we went to play paddle tennis in LA, and then we had lunch at Café Gratitude. I don't know if you've ever been. Amazing place. And Dawn, they serve purple sweet potatoes. And I know you're a big fan of purple sweet potatoes. So we had our sweet potatoes, and Simon told me about your story, and my jaw just dropped. Because, like, I've heard some wild, inspirational stories, but I think yours is in a different category. I was telling my girlfriend earlier about you, and she's like, wow, this is like your story just on steroids. I'm like, exactly, 12 times more. And oh, Dawn, it's gonna be a long intro, but maybe I heard you've done a lot of talking today, so maybe I can do some talking and just give back to you, because you've done so much for so many people, for so many cancer patients, for me as well. I'll tell you in a second why. But just to summarize for everybody listening, watching, what you've been through, you decided to study medicine. While you study medicine, you get diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I think at this exact same age that I was when I got stage 4 diagnosed. I think you were told that with or without treatment, you had weeks/months left to live.
That's right.
Continue to study medicine, which is, we'll talk about that later, quite an achievement in itself. You received a bone marrow transplant.
I did.
Became a medical doctor, an oncologist. You saved, and I'm gonna use this as a permission slip, Dawn, to say thank you to every single oncologist, nurse, everybody working there, because I wouldn't be here sitting with you right now without people like you, without oncologists, without nurses who work day and night. So to continue your story, you then develop a heart condition, heart failure. Your heart stops pumping for a couple of minutes, and you leave this earth technically for a couple of minutes. You then get a heart transplant and become, I think, the first person to complete a marathon with a heart transplant within a year.
Yeah. The purple sweet potatoes.
And you love purple sweet potatoes. And you were told, and that did so much for me, Dawn, you have no idea. you were told, just like me, that you couldn't have kids. And you gave birth to a perfectly healthy child. And when I was going through cancer treatment, I remember this vividly, because this medical doctor, and by the way, so many incredible people. I was treated in Berlin in a hospital called Charité. Legends. There's this incredible doctors, incredible nurses, and they were telling me about the risks that if I receive chemo, especially I got a high dose treatment, that my fertility might be gone, and it would be advised to basically freeze my sperm. And I tried, but I wasn't eating any sweet potatoes or any food for weeks, pretty much. So not the best time to deliver sperm, without giving too many details. And I basically, in that moment and in the next couple of days, I said goodbye to even the idea that I could have kids. Then I listened to your podcast, to your story, and I was like, wait a second. Let me do some research. And I was blown away by, first of all, you having a perfectly healthy child. And then I was also blown away by, hey, there are so many people like me who went through treatment who had perfectly healthy children afterwards. And I made the decision, and that's a public announcement, that I want to have kids. And you were the permission slip for that. So I don't know how I can thank you enough. But yeah, without further ado, I hope that was a good introduction. Dawn, thank you so much for being here, for sharing the time and the space with us.
Thank you, Axel. I feel like you're my soul brother, really. I don't think I've ever met someone who carries the same spirited, elevated existence as I do in human form until I met you.
That means so much.
And I don't think that individuals should compare themselves to my story, your story, but I hope that we can serve as that source of inspiration and knowing that they too can flourish beyond cancer. It's not easy, right? I mean, there are a lot of struggles in this journey, but it's just reframing those struggles. And for me, medical school was my purpose. I know you had something very similar in your life. You had a purpose-driven path that's usually something far outside of ourselves, to just stay on track and kind of look forward and keep my mind busy on that. So thank God I had medical school during my cancer treatments.
When you received the diagnosis, did you at any point ask yourself, why did this happen to me?
I never asked that question to myself. And I'm not sure why. I never second guessed it. I actually felt validated because I wasn't feeling good for the first time in my life. Several weeks into medical school, and I saw one doctor, and they said, use asthma. And I'm thinking, oh, great. Here I am, someone that likes to climb mountains and run. Now I have this asthma. I have to carry this silly inhaler with me when I run, and I wasn't getting better. Saw a second doctor, says, use it more. And now my heart's racing. And I'm thinking, this is awful. And then see a third doctor, says it's in my head. So when they told me I had cancer, I felt relieved. That's the truth. Because here, it wasn't in my head. I wasn't being a wimp. There was something actually wrong with me. And I was hopeful that they were going to be able to treat the cancer and get rid of these symptoms so I could get back to my life. That's really how I looked at it. Now, like you, I mean, it kind of maybe for a pause took me off guard when they said I had stage 4 cancer and I had this limited time on earth to live. I kind of ignored them. I was just kind of gritty. I was like, all right, game on. That was kind of how I handled it. And they said, you need to drop out of medical school. Same thing with you, Axel. They said, you're not going to be able to have kids. And with the medical school thing, I was thinking to myself, well, if I drop out of medical school, I'm going to drive you all really crazy. So you want me to stay in medical school. Otherwise, I'm going to have a mind that's not going to have anything else to do but to inspect what you're doing for me. So I stayed very busy in medical school the entire time during my treatment. That was my purpose. And when they told me I couldn't have a child, I just accepted that. I really did. It was something that I couldn't fight. There was no way I could do fertility treatment. I just trusted. And I actually just accepted the fact, okay, you can't have a child, but you can adopt. Like I became really good, Axel, at looking for lessons and solutions. It was like a maze, but Simon Hill, our dear friend, said it's more like a labyrinth. There was a way out. I just kept on looking for where I needed to go, where I needed to pivot, where I needed to shift, where I needed to keep my mindset to stay upright, to keep myself feeling good, and to stay in school. And I didn't let anything take me off track. I'm sure you did sports as a kid. I was a competitive gymnast, and I think sports and children teaches them a lot, that competition, that spirit.
Yes.
And it was just like a game. This was like, the biggest competition of my life. And I wanted to show up for it, and I wanted to win. Now, I wasn't fighting. I wasn't in a battle. I had like masterful acceptance of what I had, but never doubted the reason why. I actually am now just so grateful I went through cancer, because I experienced this incredible aliveness more than most 26-year-olds ever do. I'm sure you can relate. I want to hear what you have to say about that. What do you think? Did you have fear when they told you this?
Well, initially not. I could really relate to what you said about being an athlete. And first it was just, okay, let's find a solution. I was so solution trained. My whole subconscious mind was and is solution oriented. Like I knew right now we got to figure this out. You can't give up. Like I think this is something I played a lot of football, and it's never over till it's over. Like it doesn't matter. Miracles have happened. There were football matches where everybody thought it was lost, and they somehow figured it out. So for me, there was like, it's just not my attitude. It's not in my system. However, I get this question a lot, like, why did this happen? And there was a time, funny enough, when I got better, when I started asking, why did this happen? Like, what did I do wrong? I don't know if it's human nature. I don't know if it's me. I think it's a lot of people who then start asking, why me? Like, what did I do wrong? Do you think there is value in even trying to figure that out? I had this one oncologist, like I drove everybody and their mothers nuts about this question. Every oncologist I asked, listen, why did this happen? And will I survive? What are my chances here? I want to know, what are my chances here? And there was this one oncologist who told me, well, Axel, in German we have this, she said it in a loving way. It sounds rude and rough, but she said it with a lot of empathy. She says, in German we say persönliches Pech, we say PP, which basically means maybe you were just unlucky. And then she said something that stuck with me. She said, sometimes it's up to you to decide why something happens. And she tells me about, what do you think I'm telling kids who just have leukemia? They didn't eat their veggies, or they didn't do their exercise. Sometimes you don't know, and sometimes it's up to you to decide. So I was like, okay, that helped me a lot personally, because I was driving myself nuts, Dawn. I asked the whole day I was thinking about, what did I do wrong? Was it that I was eating too much protein? Was it that I spent too much time in countries where they might have a bit more pollution? Was it because of the vaccine? Like so many maybes, that could be the reason. But nobody until now could tell me why. Do you think there's value in even trying to figure that out, or does it depend? What are your thoughts on this?
Axel, what I would invite you and anyone struggling with that, asking why, is to not judge self so hard. I think we all are on our unique journeys and paths with our own reason for asking the unique questions we do. And for me, I actually didn't ask the question. And maybe it's because I was in medical school. I don't know. I get that question a lot too. And I feel like some of how I navigated through my journey is maybe rooted in my childhood and in my belief in God. I didn't really question it. I trusted. I had deep love as a child growing up, and I had faith in God. I had belief. And so for me, I just trusted that source and knowing that this was meant for me. You know, as a young teenager, I read a lot on spirituality. I would read Wayne Dyer. I would read books even like on consciousness and quantum physics, kind of interesting. It was like it prepared me. So it was beyond just my Christian faith even. It was into some of these, you know, other elements and aspects of higher existence and healing capabilities. So I feel like God kind of prepared my journey as a young adult, young adolescent to maybe not ask those questions as much and to get through it a little bit more seamlessly. But it doesn't mean if someone's asking those questions and there was a little bit of a bumpy, turbulent path, that's bad. I just think it's each our truth and our authentic reason why we're here. And I almost have this belief, though we need to be responsible with taking good care of ourselves. I almost just wonder if we're brought onto earth with this predetermined path. Like, this is what we're meant to experience in life. And though we are also meant to show up for ourselves, we have decisions to take care of ourselves, and that is a core fundamental priority. Maybe that's also decided, right? So I just stay in this really accepting space of ease without judgment of self, without judgment of external reasons why. And I think that's what elevates my energy to just soar. That's what really worked for me. I just didn't weight myself down with all these other thoughts. I just kept it simple, like simple mind.
I have tears in my eyes because this word soul, you said soul brother, I told Simon immediately, it feels like a soul sister. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Because I mean, all those spiritual books, and for me, it was also Dr. Wayne Dyer, it was Tony Robbins. Like, it felt like I've prepared myself so much for this moment, and it all made sense. And if I also think about other challenges in my life, what helped me heal those wounds was believing that it had to happen this way. And I always say, life is like a movie, and certain people had to play the role they had to play. And who am I to judge whether that's good or bad? I don't know. Like, my mom passed away. She had cervical cancer like a year after I was born. And I could choose a perspective of saying basically I could not accept it and judge it as this should have never happened. I did for a long time. It was painful. And at some point I understood, or I decided, it's not understood, I decided, hey, she played exactly the role she needed to play. And she has a much, much better time somewhere else right now. And I get to live for the two of us. Feels much more empowering. And I still have conversations. And she with her, she still, up until this day, wants me to have a good time. So she's like, choose that perspective over the other.
Axel, I didn't know that you experienced that with your mom so young. And I think that answers a question right there, why you asked why. Because you had experienced that trauma and pain. And I see this in my daughter. You know, it's so much easier, I feel, being the patient. But when you are the loved one that experiences loss, or who has the threat of almost experiencing loss. My husband passed away when my daughter was 5. So she experienced loss like you did. And it just doesn't equip you with that family dynamic and that security. Maybe not you, but at least I feel that's some burden for her that you see, like what I had in my childhood, like a normal childhood, mom and a dad, always there, security. But when you lose one of those parents, I just witnessed her having some of that void growing up. It was the hardest thing as a mom. To this day, hardest thing, not being able to ask her dad questions on, you know, how can I be a better mom? How can we be better parents? How can we raise her to be the best version of herself? And she's a beautiful human, and we figured it out. And she is her dad, you know, and I think she knows that the presence of her dad is always with her. But it's so hard because she didn't have that element of security that I did as a child, much like you losing your mom. I think it's probably even harder losing a mom.
Maybe.
And so you just wonder if maybe that's why we ask those questions. And you framed it exactly like I think too, that this is all out of our control. And if we fight it, it just kind of puts us in that realm, ruminating on it longer and longer. But it's not easy to accept when it's external to us. It's much easier to accept the cancer diagnosis. It's much harder to accept loss of another, our loved one.
All right, why don't you and I take a quick break, and why don't you and I subscribe to the show? This helps us and effectively you to get access to the best knowledge possible. It helps the show massively to get access to the most inspiring guests. The reason why we get access to guests like the one that you listened to today is because of you subscribing to the show. So please just subscribe. It takes about 2.5 seconds, gives you 7 years of good luck, and gives you also access to the best knowledge possible. Thank you so much. Now, let's continue with the show. You just mentioned something that I don't think gets enough attention, which is the people who are on the sidelines trying to support people going through cancer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like cancer rates are rising. I don't know what I try to do my research and understand why that is. I don't know if anybody actually really knows. I mean, we're also getting older and older, and if I understand the data or like science correctly, the older we get, the more likely it becomes to develop cancer. Is that true?
That's exactly true. We're in this oxidative environment longer. Aging in and of itself creates more DNA instability. But the younger cancers, breast cancer, colon cancer in particular, of course, the non-Hodgkin's lymphomas, leukemias, these are cancers that can happen in younger people anyways or older. It kind of goes both ways. But with these breast cancers and colon cancers increasing in young individuals, it's the lifestyle. It's the lack of exercise. It's the diet with low fiber, the ultra-processed foods, pollution. All of this is playing into it. It's very, very challenging. Breast cancer, women now don't have babies at younger ages. In their 20s, they wait till their 40s to have children. So they miss that window of natural breast proliferation. So that's another reason we see young women tending to get more cancers now, is because they're not having those babies at a younger age. And I don't mean that's why they're getting cancer at a young age, but in their 40s and 50s perhaps is why we're seeing it. And then alcohol is a big driver of cancer risk. And for breast cancer, of course, that's my specialty. But we see that having that alcohol at a young age for a young girl drives that breast cancer at a young age, which it's hard to get cancer at a young age because the body hasn't been on earth long enough to have those insults accumulate. Cancer tumorigenesis formation spans years. Now, there's cancers like yours and mine that are more aggressive, right? You cannot stall when you have a leukemia or lymphoma many times to do fertility treatments. Breast cancer, colon cancer, some of these solid cancers, they're slower growing. It's not like you can sit on them forever, but they generally have time to do the fertility training and treatments. But with the treatments that you and I had, very, very different. They have to start treatment immediately. And there's not time to do that fertility treatment generally.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get there in a second, and I have like a million questions. I wanted to talk about what our loved ones can do, or people, like in my case, it was my family who was trying to support me. I saw them, it was not easy for them at all to see their brother, their partner, their son to go through this. So I want to ask you what is helpful for people who maybe have a loved one going through cancer at the moment. How can they show up? Because I get that question a lot from friends. It feels like every other week I hear a cancer diagnosis, like, what can I do for my father right now? I want to give them some helpful advice as well. Like, okay, how can they support, but how can they also support themselves? Because I think it can be quite traumatizing for them as well.
You're right. So I think Number one, people are always coming to be there for us and they want to do things for us. And I would say those individuals who want to reach out and do things, one important part of that is, they are trying to fulfill their own purpose in life and serve others. And so we should let them, as patients, we should let them do that. And I also would encourage those that want to lend support to their loved one. They ask, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And sometimes it's hard as a patient to give that thing that you want help with. Like, it's not easy to ask for help. It's actually very hard. So I always encourage my patients to share with their loved one. If someone asks you, what can I do? To be open and share with them what you need help with. They can't read your mind. And I also share with patients, when you share with your loved one, hey, I really need help with you going to pick up my prescription, or I really would love to have this soup that would sound really good to me today. Whatever it may be that you ask them, you're fulfilling their purpose. You're giving them value. They're going to feel good because they can help you. And it's going to let them be active in your care. If you don't do that, they're going to sit there and worry more. So you kind of take their mind off of it. They're there to help you. So let them be a part of your journey. For those people that are the caregivers, you still have to care for yourself. So when your loved one says, hey, can you make that soup for me? Or, oh, hey, can you get the prescription for me? Go do those things. Maybe don't over ask if you don't have the capacity to do more than two things. So we have to have boundaries kind of both ways and kind of set the stage for very open communication in language and understand from both parties that the patient doesn't feel good, the patient is tired, but the caregiver may also have their own things going on in their own personal life where maybe they're not feeling great and they're certainly wearing down and getting tired. We see this all the time. As a physician, I see this in my patients where the caregivers wear themselves down trying to care for themselves, but trying to care for their loved one. So it's really important, caregivers, that you still take care of yourself. You need to eat healthy. You can't skip meals. You need to exercise. You need to move your body. Both patients and caregivers, move that body. Ideally, go for a walk together. You don't need to go running. At this moment when you're both going through extraordinary stress, maybe just more easy exercise, a walk in nature. I push my patients to exercise. If they're tired, I still want you to exercise. It doesn't mean you need to train for a marathon. I just need you to go walk, ride a bike, do whatever it is that you enjoy, but just try to move the body and you use up that adrenaline, you use up that stress so you don't feel as overwhelmed. But caregivers have to show up for themselves. You got to focus on sleep. So whatever you can do to try to make sure that you're showing up for yourself, caregivers, you may need to ask for your own support from your loved ones. So it's just that whole family unit, the whole friend unit, the whole social connection needs to be there to support one another. And we should not let our ego stand in the way. So often we don't want to ask for the help, whether you're the patient, caregiver, or beyond, because it's our ego. That's like, oh, I'm tough enough to do it on my own. Why do we do that? Let others in. We're in this journey of life together, and that's what love is all about, right?
Yes, 100%. 100%. I definitely want to go into what we can do to prevent as much as we can cancer from happening in the first place. But before we do that, you just said something I think that will raise a lot of eyebrows, which is exercise during cancer treatment. So when I was going, so let's see what I want to basically talk for the ones that are going through cancer treatment right now. And there's so many people, especially like in my community, who right now go through cancer treatment. So you just said we should exercise or we should move our bodies. For me, I can say that really helped me so much, but I didn't feel like it. Like the last thing I wanted to do is get my ass up and I started with like tapping my feet on the ground. That's all I could do. And that was like so exhausting. I went to bed afterwards for 3 hours to sleep. And then later we went on walks or I had this like I couldn't walk. I needed this I don't know if there's a name for it, but basically something that supported me walking. I never felt like it. I did it anyways, and I felt so incredibly good afterwards. I still like it felt like progress, and progress usually feels great. So what do you recommend for people who are going through cancer treatment at the moment? What are the things they should do, things they should eat, things they shouldn't eat, lifestyle choices they should make or avoid?
Oh, great question. And Axel, I love the videos of you. You're just so incredibly inspiring in your journey, in your transformation all the way through from being a patient, from being this really strong man to being a patient and then getting it all back. It's so cool. I remember seeing one picture of you in the hospital and you were doing like pull-ups. They had a bar I remember seeing. Do you know what I'm talking? Do you remember that video?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I don't know if I can call it pull-ups, but it was an attempt. Yeah.
But it's incredible, and that's exactly that. Celebrate little milestones. But you asked about lifestyle, and I really love how you asked that question. Thank you, because it's not just about one thing. It's about the whole lifestyle. And it doesn't have to be about perfection either, right? We just take one day at a time. But I love the American Institute for Cancer Research. And the American Institute for Cancer Research has guidelines for cancer prevention, which is important. But those same guidelines are also for survivors. And number one they have is try to work at maintaining an ideal body composition, meaning you want to get rid of body fat and you want to build muscle. And in the trenches of cancer treatment, that's pretty hard to build muscle. The best thing you could do is try not to lose too much muscle is what we really want to do, right? So automatically people think, I need to eat more protein. Well, you need to try to just stay active because using the muscle is what's going to actually keep that muscle strong. But during cancer treatment, and breast cancer is very interesting because oftentimes when we get that cancer diagnosis, we as cancer patients as well as our loved ones assume, oh my gosh, Axel's going to lose so much weight or Dawn's going to lose so much weight. But there's a lot of cancer treatments that you don't lose weight. Actually, with my cancer treatment, I had so many steroids, you actually gain weight. Breast cancer patients is the same thing. I think you actually experienced weight loss, so didn't you, Axel?
I lost 30 kilograms, which is like more than 60 pounds. I think like 70 pounds. But it had, I think.
That's dramatic.
But by the way,
loss.
I regained, during chemotherapy, I regained around 15 kilograms, which is like, 35, 40 pounds. So I built muscle back and I regained weight, muscle mass during treatment.
That's incredible. That's so hard to do that because of the steroids and everything else you're getting. But rule number one with that is, these guidelines in terms of cancer survivorship are things that really you can apply after your cancer treatment. But if you can be mindful of it during the cancer treatment, the reason I bring this up is if you start to gain weight, be mindful of what you're eating. I have seen family members, and this is kind of a shout out. You asked that question, what should caregivers do both for themselves and for their loved one? I really want patients to start eating healthy at the time of diagnosis. And I know when I was a patient, it was bizarre because I was always healthy, but people were still insistent on bringing me donuts, which I would never eat a donut, and chocolate and macaroni and cheese and like casseroles with all this unhealthy food. They bring comfort food. And though I think it's a nice thing to do to bring food, you want to bring healthy food, nourishing food, and still things that are tasty but healthy because
sweet potatoes.
Yeah, purple sweet potatoes, whatever it may be, but healthier foods. And I think this is really important because, again, going back to the body composition, we don't want to have weight gain, nor do we really want to have weight loss during a cancer treatment either. The next, number two, within that American Institute for Cancer Research guidelines is exercise, like we just talked about. Keep moving that body during your cancer treatment. If you're really deconditioned and you're in the hospital, ask for a physical therapist to come and see you once or twice a day. Ask for the nurses to walk you that third part of the day in between those physical therapy sessions. It's a lot on the nursing staff, but it's critical that you keep moving your body. So movement and exercise during cancer is very important. Once you're out of the hospital and you're going through more of that maintenance chemotherapy, I really want my patients to engage in exercise. I am fine with walking, restorative yoga. I don't think it needs to be intense exercise like running and things. I'd rather it actually just be an easier form of exercise. But I want patients to exercise. We know it gets rid of the brain fog. It gets rid of the stress. They have reduced cancer fatigue. And we know it actually enhances treatment outcomes. This is massive. We know it's good for the immune system. We know it's good for metabolic control. So it is powerful what exercise does for the human body during cancer treatment. Into the survivorship phase, holy cow, yes, the exercise is so powerful. And I think I am alive today because I exercised during my cancer treatment. During my bone marrow transplant, my doctor had a bicycle in my hospital room as well as at the nurse's station. And they would let me, I wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. They let me get out 4 o'clock in the morning, ride my bike during my bone marrow transplant, go back in my room. And if I wanted to ride at midday, I'd maybe get on for a few minutes just to kind of move my body. I'd feel better doing that. But, that for me really worked well. I don't know, you have to have a bike. You can go walk the halls, whatever it is. But exercise, exercise, exercise. I can't emphasize it enough. If you can do a little bit of weights, we want to try to maintain that muscle as well. It doesn't have to be blood, sweat, and tears, not to exhaustion, but just using that body. And I love restorative yoga. Restorative yoga is a moving meditation. So I'm not a good meditator. People are shocked when I say that, but it's really hard for me to meditate. But yoga is really nice because it's a moving meditation. I keep my body moving. It's a great way to help to reduce stress, right? Or, handle our level of stress. I don't know that we really reduce stress. I probably shouldn't say it that way. Stress is there when you have cancer, but it helps you to manage that stress in a better way. I think that's the way we need to put it more properly. And then the next 4 recommendations from the American Institute for Cancer Research are all based on nutrition, which this is what I love. The food is medicine is my favorite part of what I do with patients. And the first one of those is eat more vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. You need to get fiber. Fiber is fuel. Fiber is incredible for the gut microbiome. And we know the gut microbiome is what really harnesses the ability for us to ignite that immune system. And man, we want that immune system to be actively engaged so it can be searching for cancer cells and to go after them. So fiber. So when people are doing carnivore diets, keto diets, they're not going after the fiber. 95% of Americans aren't getting enough fiber. Most people are probably getting enough protein, but that's a little controversial. I want to be careful with that, especially with cancer patients. You need to be mindful of protein. But that obsession with protein, all right, I'm not going to minimize it. I want people to get enough protein, but you cannot forget about the fiber. Fiber is fuel. So be aware of that. Men need 35 grams, women need 30 grams. And a lot of times cancer patients aren't having bowel movements regularly, usually because they're not getting any fiber. It's there to bulk up the stools. Cool study, a review of the data was done this year. And it showed that when people optimize their fiber consumption, there was a 22% reduced risk of cancer occurring and a 17% reduced risk of dying from cancer. There was another amazing review that showed it enhanced metabolic control. It lowered insulin. It improved blood sugar management. This is really, really powerful stuff when it comes to cancer control. So fiber, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds. Axel, it's all the stuff you eat on your plant-based diet. Your nutrition is awesome. I'm so excited when I see what you're eating. It's like,
Thank
go,
you.
Axel. And the food looks so delicious too.
When I heard that let me double check, but if my memory is working properly, and it should, because I'm eating all of those healthy fats, and had plenty of walnuts today, flax seeds. Then from my understanding, at Mayo Clinic, you serve a lot of whole foods to cancer patients. Is that correct?
Yes. I have Jane Esselstyn come in a few times a year to do cooking demos for my patients. She was just on campus last month, and we did purple sweet potato bowls. They were amazing. And
of
we
course.
Did
what a surprise.
Of course, the purple sweet potatoes, love them, right? Everyone knows I love them. So we did the purple sweet potatoes. And, I love the purple sweet potatoes because, these colorful foods, the pigment in those foods, those flavonoids, there was just another study published to show, man, this stuff's powerful. It's so good for you. And, recently I did an interview and I talked about some of my favorite vegetables and fruits, but it's not just about those 5. It's about every single one. Get a variety. It doesn't have to be a purple sweet potato. Get an orange sweet potato. Get a Japanese sweet potato. It's white in the middle. Get a regular potato. They're super high in potassium. Some people think that potatoes aren't good for us. I don't know where that came from. Potatoes are great for you. Have a potato. Eat the skin. It's high in fiber. If you're worried about blood sugar, you can heat up the potato, chill them, and then heat them up. later. That makes the insulin response a little bit less. That's typically what I try to do.
If you're watching this, this means Christmas is approaching, and my book, maybe this is happening for you, not to you, is the perfect Christmas gift for everybody and their grandmothers. It is really a book that will change the way you look at life forever. You basically gift your loved ones the most important skill that you can develop as a human being, which is meaning making, which is turning adversity into a gift, taking control over your mind, and learning how to frame things. This book gives you access to years worth of progress for the price of going to the restaurant once. Please, please, please do yourself a favor, do your loved one a favor, order a copy, 2, 3. This book will save many lives, and you ordering this book will help us achieving that mission. So if you haven't already, make sure to order the book. Maybe this is happening for you, not to you. Out now, ladies and gentlemen. And now let's continue with the show. Why is it that hospitals, I can tell you, I was speaking very highly about Charité in Berlin. I can tell you the food, I was looking at it, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This cannot be true. Why do most hospitals, I think it's fair to say most hospitals, serve food that is unhealthy, and some of the foods that they serve we know causes cancer? So I was like, how is this coexisting here? How is someone just receiving a cancer diagnosis and then eats highly processed meat? Why is that? Why is not everybody like, if that's such a big intervention and prevention, like why wouldn't hospitals serve healthy whole foods?
You ready for this? Patient satisfaction. So part of the reimbursement for hospitals is when patients are satisfied. And, you know, when someone's in the hospital, and I've had this discussion with our own administration, and they really do try to have healthy food. I mean, the healthy food is always on the menu, but they can't control what people eat. So they still have the opportunity for people to get French fries or to get hamburgers or to have, you know, bacon and sausages. Now, at Mayo Clinic, we've gotten rid of all of our fryers. So you can't get French fries. They can be baked fries, like baked home fries, that kind of a thing. So Mayo's really drilled down on trying to have healthier food. When I had my most recent treatments for my heart transplant, you know, I would have grain bowls with tofu and edamame wrap sandwiches that were ones that actually didn't have those monodiglycerides, really nice wraps that kind of broke apart. But they would put hummus in it. They'd load it with vegetables. They would put the edamame. At Mayo, they're really conscientious about triple washing the vegetables. So anyone immunocompromised, neutropenic, has no worries with any vegetables and fruits. And every hospital should really do this. But you are right. You have the opportunity to teach people how to eat healthier and inspire them in the hospital. Why do we have on the menu these unhealthy foods? It really fundamentally bothers me because it's going against the goal of making people healthier. And food matters. It's so important when it comes to all chronic diseases, and that including cancer as well. In the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2022, they published an article that talked about how food is associated with all the leading causes of disease, including cancer. I mean, you know, we have the opportunity to pivot and turn and prevent disease and improve cancer outcomes if people take better care of themselves. And nutrition is really, for me, the cornerstone, the foundation of where it begins, because that's what fuels our body. So this is a huge shout out. If you're going to just do two things, number one, load up your plate, make half that plate a variety of vegetables and fruits. And if you get 30 different forms of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds, and even spices, 4 spices equals 1. But if you get that variety of 30 different things during the week, it's kind of fun to count, you know, or just to be acknowledging a variety. That's how you really enhance the gut microbiome. If you want to do more than 30, go. We know that 50 to 70 is like, go gut microbiome. It's like harmony. It's so cool. But man, that gut microbiome is magic when it comes to the immune system. I cannot drill down enough on that. I just got a message from a woman on social media saying that her relative was going through bladder cancer on immunotherapy. What should they do? And this was my message. For anyone on immunotherapy, the best thing you can do, the gift to your body to really accelerate that treatment, is optimize the gut microbiome. I'm not here to say probiotics. Just get that variety of plant foods to the best of your ability. Maybe it's a smoothie. Maybe it's making a pureed soup. You can make different soups and throw stuff in there for that variety. It's hard to eat well sometimes during cancer treatment because everything tastes metallic-y, but trying to get those foods in whatever way you can works. And I find that soups are a great way for my patients during treatment, and then to use different seasonings, whatever you can do. I know I spend a lot of time on that. That's number one, get enough vegetables and fruits. Number two, also going along the American Institute for Cancer Research guidelines, is get rid of the fake food. Get rid of those ultra-processed foods. When you actually look at the list of what ultra-processed foods are, it gets a little bit complicated because some foods on that list may not be as bad for us as we would think when we look at the label. Like there's some soy milks on that list considered ultra-processed foods. The message here is just apply your common sense. I mean, we don't have to get into all the nuances of what is categorized on a label as ultra-processed or not. But I just don't want patients getting those ingredients on the label that their grandmother wouldn't recognize or that they otherwise couldn't bring into their home to make the food themselves. So if it's those long words, you're like, what the heck is this? Leave it at home. Listen, Axel, there was a really cool study, 2 of them. One was done at the UK Biobank. And what it showed is that in the UK, about 23% of the food by weight was ultra-processed food. For every 10% increment increase in ultra-processed food, it increased the risk of dying from cancer. And it showed specifically that it increased the risk of dying from breast cancer by 16% for every 10-point increment increase and 30% for ovary cancer. Now, there was another study that was done with a French cohort, and this cohort had 92,000 individuals, and they followed them for almost 7 years. So this isn't a long study, right? And they showed that those individuals with more mono and diglycerides compared to those that didn't have as many mono and diglycerides, that those with the most mono and diglycerides had an increased risk of breast cancer by 24%, and gentlemen had an increased risk of prostate cancer by 46%. So I bring up this mono and diglycerides because flying out here, I ordered the vegan food on the menu. It's not whole food plant-based, it's vegan, and vegan doesn't mean healthy, right? So they bring me soy milk, and I look at the label just because that's what I always do. I took a picture of it, actually. I should post it. Oh my gosh. This is why soy milk sometimes ends up on that ultra-processed list. There was sugar. There was carrageenan. There was mono and diglycerides in the soy milk and a bunch of other ingredients that I had no idea what it was. I did not drink that soy milk. I mean, it would be better to drink milk, quite honestly. So we got to really step back. We have to read the labels. They put this little plant sterile butter, and on the label, it was like kind of advertising it's good for our cholesterol, right? Well, I read the ingredients. There was mono and diglycerides on that too. So you got to read the labels. It doesn't mean that if you're at a coffee shop and they put soy milk in your coffee, you need to say, hey, I want to read the label. Don't worry about it. But when we're at home, if we have control, just do your best at home. We can't live in fear, right? This isn't about fear.
100%.
But get rid of the fake food. So those are my 2 rules. Eat more vegetables and fruits. Make half that plate vegetable and fruit. And when there's ingredients on the label that you otherwise couldn't bring into your home or your grandmother wouldn't acknowledge what it is, don't bring it into your home. That's what I would say. Red meat should be minimized. Processed meat should be avoided. And sugar-sweetened beverages, including fruit juice, should really be limited and avoided as well when it comes to cancer control from that American Institute for Cancer Research. And then alcohol, for cancer prevention, you should avoid it. But this doesn't have to be about perfection. This is an area where some people get really defensive when you say you shouldn't drink alcohol. It's not just about cancer. It's also not good for your brain. But I don't know. I enjoy wine. And I'm not here to be perfect with my lifestyle. I enjoy being perfect with my nutrition. And by the way, there is no perfect diet. So that's the ego speaking, right? Like, oh, I'm perfect with my diet. There is no perfect diet. And no one should really strive to be that way, because if you do, you're probably going to be turbulent and nervous and all these things. So just do your best. And when it comes to alcohol, you certainly aren't drinking alcohol for health benefit. And if you drink alcohol, there's going to be a little bit of risk. I equate that to getting into a car. When you get in your car, right, you put your seatbelt on, you stay in your lane, you go as close to the speed limit as possible. An accident could happen. There's some risk, right? But we can't live in a risk void life. There's risks in life. So you kind of pick what things align with you. And when it comes to alcohol, I just tell my patients, you need to minimize it and never drink alone. And if you're going to drink and it's a social gathering and it's something that culturally is what you enjoy, Women, it would be, less than 1 drink a day, and men, less than 2 drinks a day for the United States. In Canada, men and women, no more than 2 drinks a week. It's very interesting. So hopefully the U.S. pulls down their guidelines, but it's different for every region. But alcohol is a carcinogen, and it's linked to many cancers, 7 cancers. So we've got to be mindful of that, and particularly when people start drinking at a young age. So those are the recommendations for cancer survivors that individuals really want to, be mindful of. Pretty simple, right? It's a pretty simple toolkit that they provide, pretty simple roadmap. And you just want to do your best, but it's a combination of all these things and just a balance that really works. And I know you and I both really love that whole food plant-based nutrition. I attribute it to my vitality. I attribute it to my thriving. I opt not to do animal products. I'm not an ethical vegan necessarily, but for me, it just feels better. It feels like the nice thing to do for me. And we do believe that maybe it's a little bit easier on the environmental footprint as well. And it's just what's meaningful, but I don't think it has to be perfect. If someone wants to have some dairy, there was a cool study that was published. It was the Dietary Patterns for Healthy Aging, published this spring, 2025. And it showed that the dietary pattern for healthy aging was the vegetables, the fruits, the whole grains, polyunsaturated fats, nuts, and it also had low-fat dairy in moderation. And I like that. I'm not here to villainize dairy. I think that fermented dairy like kefir and yogurt can certainly have part of a healthy diet if someone wants to have it. We know that vegetarian diets can certainly be very healthy for individuals as well.
I want to hear your thoughts on fasting and broccoli sprouts and sulforaphane. Are you familiar with Doug Evans?
I was just with him before I came here, and I just texted
No
him
way.
yesterday. I'm friends with him. Listen, this is a huge shout out. So, okay, let's talk about the sprouts first, because this is so cute. I was going to bring up sprouts. I was like, Dawn, you're talking too much. Let the next question come. This is incredible. So, I went to naturopathic school before traditional medical school, and we talked about Ayurveda. I learned Ayurvedic principles. And when we talked about sprouted food is like the energy is growing in this food. And so when you eat it, it's like your body still has this energy. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. So I love sprouted food for my patients, and particularly sprouts. So when patients come in to see me and they say, Dawn, what do you think about sulforaphane? What do you think about DIM? There's some cool research, particularly with breast cancer, because it helps to detoxify the estrogen, but it's good for all cancers. I love broccoli sprouts. I want people not to buy it in a bottle, make it in a sprouting kit. And I love Doug Evans, the sprouting company's high glucoraphanin sprouts. Huge shout out to Doug Evans. I do not make money from him. I do not do sponsorships, but guess what? I just set up an agreement for Doug to give Mayo Clinic staff a discount. So Mayo Clinic staff, you now have a discount. So I'm like, Doug, can we get a code for this podcast? Maybe we can get a code for this podcast. It'd be really fun. Let's ask Doug to do that for the listeners, because I want people to sprout. It's so cute with families too. This is a great way to get your kids involved at home. They can have a little job with rinsing it. So I'm really all about sprouts. What's so cool with sprouts is when you have the seed and it's sprouting, that's its point of most nutrient density. So you get powerful vitamins and minerals and even protein. As it grows to the microgreen, you're using up some of those nutrients to become the microgreen. And then as it grows to the actual sprouting fruit or the vegetable, you're using up even more. So the sprout is like magic.
What is the sulforaphane doing in terms of, because when I went through treatment, like after that, I went into a deep dive of whatever the heck I could possibly do to, prevent this from happening again. And I learned about fasting, mimicking diet, broccoli sprouts. I think there is a lot of promising research about sulforaphane that is coming up. But what makes sulforaphane so special?
Wow. I mean, it's powerful. So from the estrogen pathways, I was sharing that it helps to actually detoxify the estrogen from a less proliferative form of estrogen to one that is not going to be as problematic. But for all cancers, for all human health, we know that it helps to activate these detoxification pathways, not just specific to the breast, but beyond the breast tissue. So it's very, very powerful from that pathway. In fact, when patients call me and say, Dr. Dawn, I want to do a detox, I usually recommend, let's get you on a whole food plant-based diet. Let's do some broccoli sprouts. That's usually the path that I go with these individuals, is just get them on boarded with a healthy diet and let the body detoxify naturally. So I really am promoting of using the sprouting product, because you're going to get the fiber, you're going to get all the other nutrients that are in the sprout beyond what you're going to get in the bottle, because the bottle is just going to give you the sulforaphane by itself.
What are your thoughts on fasting during treatment or following the? I'm sure you're familiar with fasting mimicking diet, both in terms of like preventing cancer and during treatment.
Awesome. So when it comes to fasting with cancer, some cancers may be better to fast than others during treatment. So the question would be leukemias, lymphomas. Hard to know. Because and so that's not my area of expertise, but I would really work with your oncologist. I don't know that I would recommend fasting within those cancers until we have more research, because what the fasting does for breast cancer patients, colon cancer patients, prostate cancer patients, is our goal with those solid tumor chemotherapies is to go after that solid tumor cancer. In the process of doing that, some of the collateral damage that happens along the way is the bone marrow gets suppressed. Their white blood cell counts drop. They may get anemic. Their platelets drop, right? So when we fast those patients during chemo, and in order to offset that drop in blood counts, it's typically about a 72-hour fast. So I usually do 48-hour fast before chemo and then another 24 that day of chemo. I use Prolon fasting mimicking diet to do that with patients. Love it. So I have them get the 1-day reset. And what they'll do is they'll do that 1-day reset at that 48-hour window, day 1, day 2, they do their chemo day, and that's day 3. So I have them get their 72 hours of fasting. We believe that it takes 72 hours of fasting during that chemo window to help to reduce the drop in the blood counts. So you see where I'm going with this, right? If the cancer is a leukemia or a lymphoma coming from the bone marrow, and you're reducing the chemo's toxic effects on the bone marrow, that concerns me until we have more research in that space. So always talk to your doctor about the chemotherapy regimen you're receiving, if fasting would be safe for you. It does need to be bio-individualized. I do feel strongly with that. What's really cool though with the breast cancers, colon cancers, prostate cancer, there's other cancers, but I'm going to say those for right now, is that what we believe is that the cancer cells don't know what to do when you fast. They get a little irritated. So the thought is maybe the chemo goes after the cancer cells in a more accelerated rate. Where the healthy cells know what to do, they kind of go dormant and they get out of the way. And so you're not hurting those healthy cells quite as much. That's why they don't have as much of the drops in counts. That's where the research is currently taking place today in the cancer arena. Now, with the time-restricted eating, there's some cool breast cancer data that shows that a 13-hour fast seems to enhance metabolic control and may reduce the risk of things like recurrence among breast cancer patients. Again, I'm in that breast cancer space, so I know that data most. But I do feel that if we can do a 12 to 13-hour fast each night, that's great. I personally never want patients to skip breakfast. I feel that there's very compelling data to show that from overall survival standpoint, from a cardiovascular survival standpoint, that there is lots of data that show us that eating breakfast matters. So in the Western countries, people's way of fasting is, oh, I'm going to eat until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and then I'm just not going to eat until 2 in the afternoon. That's not really how it's meant to be. We should stop eating at sundown, and we should start eating at sunrise, like a circadian eating rhythm pattern. That's what I recommend, and try to get that 12 hours. You asked another question, what do I think about fasting and making diets? I love it. I am not a great faster. I just met someone here. I was speaking at the Global Wellness Summit, and I met a gentleman who he just got off of a 23-day water fast. I was like, whoa, I could never do that. I am a fasting wimp. So I am no good. I really stink at fasting. It's my weakness. But I try to do the Prolon 5-day fast, the fasting mimicking diet, every 3 to 4 months. But even then, it's so hard on me.
Really?
How about you?
Wow.
What do you do? You're good
So
with
easy.
fasting.
I'm good with fasting. Yeah, I'm really, really easy. I go without food for a couple of days. I'm incredibly productive during those days. I love it. I just did one when I was flying from the States to Asia. For me, it's the easiest thing in the world. And also, usually at airplanes, not every airline, but most airlines, they serve terrible food. And so it's like, easy. I'm doing something nice for my body. For me, it's easy. Unless I'm playing tennis or exercising, then I wouldn't do it. But I try to do it every 3 months.
Oh, okay, great. I agree. And you said something important there with the exercise. I love to run, and I usually am training for a marathon once or twice a year. And so when I am doing that, the last fast I did, I had a long run the day before I started my fast. And man, it was the worst fast I ever did. I felt miserable. I finally gave up after 3 days. I couldn't think straight. I was just like, this is not for me. So I need to redo it again. Maybe I'll do it when I get back home. I don't have a marathon coming up anytime soon. So yeah.
Wild. I wanna ask a question that I hear often, and I don't know if there's a right answer, but I'll try anyways. For people who get a similar diagnosis to what you've heard, to what I've heard, what is the best thing they can do? Because on a daily basis, I have people reaching out to me saying, hey, my dad, my husband just got a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. What should we eat? We've covered that. But what is the best thing to do? What is your answer in those cases?
The best answer is to just pause, connect, love, openly communicate with your family. That's number one. We get so obsessed with how should I eat? How much should I exercise? How much should I fast? Oh, no, I can't drink alcohol. And we forget just to live. Like we really stop living sometimes in an effort to live this perfect diet to beat cancer, or we're battling cancer. And I really want people to kind of approach it with a little bit of grace. So that's hard, right? But it's easier. We can have this conversation with individuals going through this because we've been through it. We all have been there, and it's not easy to do that, but we want to try to let off that self-judgment, that voice that's critiquing every little move we do, and just pause to be. Take time to be with our loved ones. Embrace those connections. It's so, so, so important. Now, you have choices and decisions. You got to show up for yourself. You've got to prioritize your sleep. We didn't go into that, but sleep is important. If you don't sleep optimally, your metabolic control, even if you're eating perfect, is going to be a mess. And metabolic control during cancer is really important. I want that blood sugar to be well controlled. So getting enough sleep is important. I would probably encourage people really to look at that. Chemotherapy-related fatigue is one of the biggest complaints I have people coming in. And the first thing I ask them is, how are you sleeping? Oh, I'm not. You got to start there, right? A lot of times people are feeling tired, like, what should I do? And, they want to start stacking all these different supplements and taking all these things. But you got to first reflect on how you're sleeping. And I really want people to ask that question. How do you sleep, Axel? Are you a good sleeper?
I'm a fantastic sleeper. I'm religious about my sleep, and I think the only thing that I can still improve, or maybe there's more, but what I'm working on right now is consistency in terms of my sleep and going to bed at the same time. But I don't think that's an answer that most people would expect to hear. But if I think back, that is really what saved my life. Talking to people, because they made decisions for me when I couldn't. And my loved ones, speaking to my loved ones about it and just saying with open arms, like, please, I need your help. I cannot do this by myself. I need your help. Really, really saved my life. And at the same time, perhaps what I usually say is go to the best possible expert clinic around you and hear a couple of opinions. But it's probably, there's so many things that you could possibly do, but I think what you just, and you said it earlier, you used this word grace. I know it has a big meaning to you, the word grace. Grace and faith, you said earlier, you can't live in fear. And whatever it takes, usually is my answer, whatever it takes to get out of this fear state, because when we are in a fear state, we usually make terrible decisions. whatever it takes to get out of fear back to faith. I love that you said you never fought cancer. You never had a fight. My therapist once told me, Axel, from now on we stop calling it we stop calling it cancer, we stop calling it fight, we're gonna call it a teacher. And I was like, fuck, I love this. Because every single time when I heard the word, I kind of like, oof, oof. And he's like, teacher. What is this teaching you? What is this how is it? And he said the same thing, like, don't fight. We're not fighting anything. We are learning. And that felt much better than fighting. And yeah, I have a million questions for you, but they will kick you out of the studio very, very soon. But we will bend. We'll see until when they give us the time and the space. What is a question you think or you wish people should ask you more? You get interviewed these days like there's no tomorrow. What is a question you wish someone would ask but no one asks?
You know, the one question I got asked early on, and people don't ask me as much as, you know, what are the 3 things that I did that allowed me to rise above? And the first one was what you just said. I love that. It was to reframe, right? To reframe cancer as a teacher of life. So I love that you said, you know, and that really worked for me, is looking for the lesson. Now, that's not easy. Some people feel that's toxic positivity, but I'm here to say, listen, we're not saying that this isn't hard. This is hard. But if you go into it that this is hard, this is hard, this is hard, like, you know, I didn't want to succumb to it. I wanted to rise above. And so I reframed it as a teacher of life, and I looked for lessons. The second was gratitude. You know, what can I be thankful for as soon as I wake up? I mean, I was so thankful for my family. I mean, Axel, I love the pictures of the support that you had around, the beautiful friends. And I mean, I can just imagine them just loving you and just the beautiful human you are, how much that gave back to them. And to watch you just rise above. I mean, you just warm your pictures and your energy and your spirit. It just invigorates social media. So keep going with it. I just love following you. But gratitude, you know, it takes you from this place of deficit and automatically moves you to abundance. You'll just feel better. There's always something you could be grateful for. My God, if you woke up, give thanks to that very breath. Give thanks to the sunrise coming up. Give thanks to something. But for me, it was my family, my medical team, and for my deep belief in God, something bigger than myself. It was so, so important. And that actually is my third thing, is belief in something outside of myself, bigger than myself. For me, it's God, whatever that is, and I could hand it over. Any worry, any fear, because we would be lying to you if we said, oh, I was fearless. I had no fear. No, there's always fear. And in fact, as a cancer survivor, your entire life, when you get little aches or pains or a cough or something, it goes through your mind. And now I'm 25 years out, those fears, they enter your mind and they ping right back out. It's like they don't stay. It's kind of like your Teflon, right? The fears or little worries, stick, they just kind of bounces right off. But when you're 1 year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, 5 years out, it sticks a little longer. And then each year that goes by, it sticks a little bit less time. It becomes easier. That little monkey on the shoulder, it's constantly that voice, oh, what is this? What is this? That's only natural. I don't know does that make sense with what I'm saying, Axel?
100%. Yeah, 100%. 1,000,000%.
You know, but for me, it would be just that belief in something bigger than myself. And I think that was my superpower, is just being able to hand it over. So those are the things that helped me get through.
If you would own the New York Times Square for 2 minutes and you could leave a message for the whole world, and it's not just the New York Times Square, everywhere, every single media platform, advertising space would illustrate that message. What would be your message in terms of what we can do to prevent cancer if you would have 60 seconds?
It's a hard one. You know, I feel when it comes to what can we do to prevent cancer, there oftentimes are many things that are out of our control. You know, so I fear a little bit with that, even though we know that, you know, only 5 to 10% of cancers are caused from genetics. Only 5 to 10% are caused from family history. So really only about 20 to 25% are for reasons that we can't control. The remaining 75% are maybe things that are external to us, right? But it doesn't mean we can control all those. So we kind of went over the things that you can do to prevent cancer, but I wouldn't want to leave it as a fear statement. I think for me, what I would say is I think cancer is the biggest invitation to our aliveness. And I just wonder if cancer comes to us to wake us up. You know, I was in this rat race of life, rushing to become a medical student, and it stopped me in my tracks. And I entered into this harmony of life, this blissful state, this ability to be unapologetically alive. And so for me, I feel that cancer is there for a divine reason that each of us are given. And it's not easy. And certainly some of us struggle with it more than others. But I think we just have to trust that. And I know I didn't answer your question because I fear if I did, that could cultivate some blame. And I just don't know that we can ever blame ourselves. It's here for a reason. And I don't know that it's up to us to change it. But we can take responsibility once we get the diagnosis, get on track with the things that you and I shared. But I think the most important part of this message is what you and I both embody. And it's just that love of life, respect and honor of self in the spirit of humanity to be there for others and to elevate them.
I think, Dawn, you're living proof that cancer can give you superpowers. In general, that adversities are growth opportunities, that you can turn your quote unquote worst day into your best day and gain superpowers from it. And I am so incredibly grateful that I can sit here with you, share the time, the space. We've learned a lot today. To recap a couple of things, definitely eat your sweet potatoes every single time. I don't know if I did it while we were recording, if I said it while we were recording. Every single time I have a sweet potato on my plate, I'm thinking of you. And I feel like the life energy is coming into my system immediately. We've heard a lot of things about exercising, whether you are a cancer patient or not. That is something that is in I would say responsible for our life energy. Like your energy feels like a double shot of espresso.
I love coffee.
Yeah, I know. Me too. We didn't get into this, but there will be a second time for sure. Like I want to meet you in person, go running, and eat some sweet potatoes. But we learned a lot about things that we can control and things that we can do to not just, live longer, but also live better. And this is the most exciting part. Like, even if you wouldn't care about living long, living good right now, today, like I couldn't show up with this energy if I wouldn't eat healthy, if I wouldn't exercise. And the same is for you. Like, it's immediate. That's the beautiful thing about good night of sleep, of exercising, of eating whole foods. It's immediate reward. You feel great the next day. Wonderful. And so I find it really, really empowering. And I cannot say thank you often enough for your beautiful, beautiful work. I wish one day I can come visit your clinic and be of support in some way. Anything I can do to help, I'll be there. You can call me anytime, except when I'm sleeping. But you're such a beautiful soul. I feel honored. Just already the fact that I have a whole new perspective on my ability to have kids. And I don't know, maybe you will receive a thank you letter one day from my son or my daughter.
It's going to happen. Believe. So important. Just believe. Know that.
Believe.
You'll be a beautiful father.
Dawn, thank you so much. Was there anything you wanted to say? Anyway, let me let that be the final question. How can we support you? How can we give back? How can we support your work?
Just be loving and kind to all the lives that you touch. Put it into action. Pay it forward. Yeah. Axel, thank you for having me here. You really touched my life. You elevate me to be a better human and all of us that follow you. You are here for such a divine, important reason. It gives me chills to say that, but I don't know that I've ever met another human that's more fully alive than you. So it makes me just so honored to be your friend and to be walking this journey of life with you. And I can't wait to meet you in person.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Likewise.
And I'll
Dawn,
babysit the
thank you.
kids. They can call me like Grandma Dawn or Aunt Dawn. I could be Aunt Dawn. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to happen.